Have you ever wondered how a single spark can change the course of history? What if I told you that in 1666, a massive fire didn't just devastate London, but also reshaped its future? Greetings everyone, today, we'll dive deep into the Great Fire of London. A catastrophic event that consumed 85% of the city's homes, leaving 65,000 Londoners homeless. We'll explore the causes, the aftermath, and the rebirth of a city that rose from its ashes stronger than ever. If you find this video interesting, please support us by hitting the like button. Let's start by looking at the circumstances of the Great Fire that burned London to the ground. The fire began in a single house. With the wind being particularly strong that day, the flames spread with ease. In the blink of an eye, the flames engulfed large parts of London. Yet, the wind wasn't the sole factor making the fire so extensive. Firstly, it was due to the construction style of houses at that time. Many houses were constructed from wood with thatched roofs, which were highly flammable. In addition, the houses were built so close together that the flames could easily leap from one roof to another, facilitating the rapid spread of the fire. Another contributing factor was the delayed response from the then mayor, Thomas Bloodworth. His slow response in giving orders led to a delayed reaction to the fire. He was unable to do anything in the face of a fire of unprecedented magnitude, and his slow response would later be harshly criticized. As a result of these conditions, the fire lasted for a whopping 4 days. When the fire was finally extinguished, about 85% of the houses in London had been destroyed. Only a few stone buildings remained, leaving 65,000 Londoners homeless. In addition, the ground after the fire was covered in thick ash and debris, making it both difficult to walk on and unsuitable for habitation. The homeless had to leave the burnt city and find places to sleep in the open. As a result, many people left London and moved to other towns and villages, while others tried to live in the burned areas of the city. However, with 85% of the houses gone, there was naturally a severe housing shortage in London. Rents in London skyrocketed, doubling in a matter of days, and house prices rose tenfold in a matter of weeks. Merchants and others who could not leave the city had no choice but to pay the rent, no matter how much it skyrocketed. Not only rents, but other prices soared as well, and the high prices triggered by the Great Fire continued for years to come. Thus, the Great Fire of London was not only a sad loss of a familiar home, but also a devastating event for Londoners in many ways. Those who suddenly lost their homes and livelihoods were undoubtedly devastated by their circumstances. Eventually, they would wonder, why should I have to go through this? Why did the fire happen? Who in the world started the fire? Thus, various speculations arose about the cause of this tragic fire, and the search for the culprit began. In the process, rumors, assumptions, and what we would now call conspiracy theories were flying around. The prevailing theory about the cause of the Great Fire was that it was ignited by immigrants from a hostile country, given that England was at war with both the Netherlands and France in 1666. Many speculated that the fire was an omen of an impending invasion from one of these nations. Those caught up in this idea then turned their anger toward Dutch and French immigrants and began to act violently. As a result, innocent Dutch bakers were attacked, and Frenchmen were beaten with iron bars. In fact, some say that even the Swedish ambassador, who had nothing to do with any country, was nearly hanged. Amidst the chaos, rumors spread that a Frenchman had ignited the fire using gunpowder. Because of this rumor, violence targeting Frenchmen escalated further. For example, a French woman wearing an apron was attacked because she was suspected of having gunpowder in her pocket. Another French individual was attacked for allegedly carrying a bomb, which turned out to be just a tennis ball. These incidents of one-sided violence against immigrants have finally resulted in deaths, to our horror. As we will discuss later, however, neither the Dutch nor the French were responsible for the fire. However, the people who had been hit so hard by the fire were so distraught and skeptical that they let the incident happen. Another incident that underscored the desperate search for culprits involved a young man, Robert Hubert. It happened shortly after the Great Fire. A 26-year-old young man named Robert Hubert, the son of a British watchmaker, was arrested on his way to flee the country. There he confessed to the police that he was a member of a French gang that had planned the destruction of London, and that he had started the fire. Apparently, however, that was not true. When the case went to trial, Hubert's story changed dramatically, and he denied starting the fire. Further, evidence emerged that he was not in London at the time of the fire. Hubert may have been coerced into a confession at the time of his arrest, and may have been falsely accused of a crime. However, Hubert was never released. Despite evidence that he was not in London at the time of the fire, he was found guilty and hanged within weeks. We would later learn that he was, in fact, innocent. The fire was caused by something else. But the reactions of those who were so eager to find the culprit of the fire easily executed an innocent young man. This fervor of targeting immigrants and incriminating apparently innocent people also ran rampant in the religious world. At that time, Protestantism was the dominant form of Christianity in England, creating tensions with the long-standing Catholic community. Even before the Great Fire, London society had been harboring the seeds of conflict between Protestants and Catholics. These sparks flared up in the panic of the Great Fire. In the aftermath of the fire, the British government set up a committee to probe its origins. This committee was then faced with a number of conspiracy theories. The committee received testimonies from the public, many of which placed the blame on Catholicism. One person testified, and another man also mentioned, "I heard Irish Catholics warning that tragedy was coming to London in September 1666. Another man testified that Catholics told me months before the fire that London might burn in 1666. These and other testimonies led to suspicions that Catholics were behind the Great Fire for more than a decade after the fire. Hence, individuals from different backgrounds formulated their own theories and interpretations about the fire's cause. It could be said that the Great Fire brought to light the problems that existed in London at that time. On the other hand, the Great Fire was also a turning point that would change the city and its society for the better. One of the initial developments in London post the Great Fire was the establishment of a fire protection system. Prior to the Great Fire, the prevailing method of fire prevention in London was to demolish buildings in the path of the flames to prevent them from spreading. However, this measure reportedly failed during the Great Fire of 1666. Due to the fire's rapid spread, and Mayor Bloodworth's hesitation to demolish the edifices of influential individuals. Furthermore, the water pipes running through the city were made of wood, which burned in the event of a fire, rendering them useless. In response to this situation, London worked to build a strong fire protection system to overcome its weakness against fire and prevent a repeat of the tragedy. This led to the creation of a fire brigade, based on new legislation and the installation of fire hydrants throughout the city. In the wake of the Great Fire, London took a major step toward becoming a more disaster-resistant city. Furthermore, in rebuilding the city, London wanted to make it less flammable in the first place. And the Reconstruction Act of 1667 set new standards for building that would shape the city's landscape for centuries to come. The law prohibited the use of flammable materials such as wooden exterior walls and thatched roofs, which had been the mainstay of houses until then, and imposed restrictions on the width and shape of streets. And because every possible step had to be taken to realize fire-resistant urban development, specialists with knowledge about buildings were required. That's why, after the Great Fire, the role of a building inspector was introduced, a position that hadn't existed before. These inspectors were responsible for checking that building plans were in accordance with laws and regulations, and that blueprints were correct. In the aftermath of the Great Fire, the architectural field introduced techniques that had not been previously utilized. In the process of rebuilding the city, the landscape of London changed in new and beautiful ways. For example, St. Paul's Cathedral is still a popular tourist attraction today. This cathedral was originally a symbol of London and the heart of its citizens. When the fire started, many people brought furniture and floral materials into this church. They thought that the flames would not reach the church's large yard, but also that the church would be protected by the power of God. However, the furniture that was brought in added fuel to the fire. making it more intense. As a result, London's iconic cathedral was completely consumed. The citizens of London must have felt as if they had lost their spiritual home. The cathedral was rebuilt from scratch by architect Christopher Wren. It took him 44 years to rebuild St. Paul's Cathedral into a beautiful structure with a majestic dome. Londoners must have been delighted when the cathedral, which had completely disappeared, was restored on a grander scale than before. Wren devoted much of his life to rebuilding the cathedral, and when he died in 1723, he was buried in the cathedral that became his masterpiece. In addition to Christopher Wren, there were many others who were motivated to rebuild London. For example, Robert Hooke, the natural philosopher famous for his discovery of the cell, and Peter Mills, a talented surveyor, and several other scholars, including them, brought rebuilding plans to King Charles II within days of the fire. Many renowned scientists and architects pitched their building plans. The king, however, rejected all the offers of the scholars, saying that it would be unrealistic to decide on a building plan before an accurate survey of the town had been made. This calm decision by the king contributed greatly to the subsequent revival of London. Within 4 years of the fire, 6,000 of the 13,000 buildings lost in London were rebuilt. And all of them were built in strict accordance with the new building codes. While medieval London primarily featured wooden structures, post-fire reconstructions leaned towards brick and stone, replacing thatched roofs with tiles. These measures greatly improved the fire resistance of buildings. In addition, new buildings were restricted in height to a maximum of 4 stories. This allowed wealthy people to purchase larger lots to build their mansions on, thus reducing the height of buildings. This changed the landscape of the densely built-up town, and also made it more difficult for flames to spread in the event of a fire. Through these measures, London was not merely restored to its former state, but was transformed into a city that was both more aesthetically pleasing and resilient. This evolution gave rise to the iconic London cityscape we recognize today. Incidentally, the monument commemorating the Great Fire of London, that now stands in the City of London, again this time, was completed in 1677, 11 years after the fire. The tower, which commemorates the revival of London, was designed by Christopher Wren, who rebuilt St. Paul's Cathedral, and was built near where the fire occurred. The tower symbolizes the resilience of the people of London in overcoming and surviving a severe disaster. The Great Fire dealt a heavy blow to the City of London, and also created a turmoil of anxiety and doubt in the minds of the people. However, the city overcame the tragedy, and it has grown greatly as it recovers. The efforts of the people of that time are not only the foundation of the modern London landscape, but also a testament to the resilience of humanity. Events like these underscore the importance of preparedness, and the invaluable lessons we can draw from our past. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. Take care and see you in the next video. Goodbye.